So to pad it out a little bit, I'm not going to ask you to shout it out loud or anything, but I want you to think about a time when you have really, really, really cocked up. Something that you've made a terrible, terrible mistake, and I want you to see like your cringe face. I want you to think about those times where you've just gone, oh God, I wish I didn't do that. Okay, so hold that image in your head. Now, I want you to think about a time when you, and you alone, not as you as part of a team or not of you with help from anyone else, has done something absolutely fucking amazing. Something that you would like confidently stand up and go, bang, I did this is all my work. Right, I don't know if you're the same as me, but I always find it a little bit easy to think about the cock-ups, and I find to think about the amazing things. So I just want you to hold on to those two thoughts and how easy it is for us to focus on the things that we do wrong, and how hard it is for us to focus on the things that we do right. Anyway, so today's talk is about imposter syndrome, and I don't want to like negate anyone's experience of it, but I actually don't think that imposter syndrome exists. I'm going to give you some explanations of why I don't think it exists. But more than that, it's a conversation about confidence and how some people have confidence, and some people think that they can learn confidence, or some people think that they can teach confidence, and then people who you think should have confidence don't, and all of the different reasons potentially why they don't occur. So what's the opposite of imposter syndrome? Hopefully you've got an idea now that I am a confident person. I have been for a long time, and people actually struggle with my confidence. I come across as being a little bit of a gobshy. I come across as being quite bossy, and I know that I rub people up the wrong way sometimes, but I also don't really care about that anymore because of the experiences that I've had in my past. So when I was writing this talk, I was thinking about all the different ways that we think that we can learn confidence. And I was also thinking about the confidence expert who was probably charging about £1,600 a day to teach the Tories to adopt power poses at the moment, and how utterly amazing it is that they think that they can sell confidence. So, like I say, I'm 37 next week, and I've been this awful, annoying version of confidence for quite a long time now. And I don't think it's because I have adopted the right power pose, or I don't think it's because I've read the right article. I think it is because I have consistently and with alarming regularity made incredible mistakes, one after another, and never really learned from any of those mistakes. I am like a snowball rolling down a hill of cock-ups. So when I say that confidence comes from experiences, I don't say that you need to be an old person to have confidence. I know some very young people who have amassed the necessary amount of experiences to feel this way about themselves, but I think there does need to be a number of experiences that help you amass that feeling. So let's talk about imposter syndrome, seeing as it's the title of the talk. This is what imposter syndrome, the dictionary definition of imposter syndrome. I hate people who read from slides when the slide's in front of you, and I'm now going to do it for you. A collection of feelings of inadequacy, persist despite evident success. Imposters suffer from chronic self-doubt and a sense of intellectual fraudulence that override any feelings of success or external proof of their confidence. So this is why I don't think imposter syndrome exists. I think imposter syndrome is actually just our reaction to people's reaction to us. If you ever think about when you're maybe younger, when you're a junior in your position and someone just starts talking over the top of you, or when someone just starts scrolling their phone casually while you're having your say in a meeting, or when someone takes your work and repurposes it as their own and doesn't credit you for it. And it's in those tiny little microaggression, moments of microaggression where you sit there and go, ugh, maybe I didn't present properly. Maybe I didn't get my point across well enough. Perhaps I wasn't bold enough with my ideas. No, actually, what's happened is that someone else has just treated you like a fucking idiot, and you've internalised that feeling, and that, for me, is what imposter syndrome is. Now, the reason that I believe this is because the point when I should have been crippled with imposter syndrome was the point where actually I was at my most confident and was willing to take the most risks possible. So I ran a studio with my two best friends for about 10 years, and we were basically terrible in every imagination of the world. We had no agency experience. I'd done a little bit of work in the music industry, but it was incredibly unprofessional, and I think I overspent budgets by many, many hundreds of thousands of pounds. And we hadn't really had any proper clients, but we decided we were just going to start an agency, and the agency was very scrappy and it was very edgy, and it became quite successful, and we built a reputation for ourselves. Now, within that point of us constantly feeling like we were absolutely blagging it no matter what happened, we felt incredibly confident because myself and my two partners, who were also my best friends, and one of them was also my boyfriend, we had each other's backs. No matter what, no matter how rogue we decided to go, we had each other's backs. Now, I do 2 versions of this talk, and I thought my boss was going to be in the talk, so this is the clean version. I wish I'd have shown you the other version, but I'm going to talk you through this, and I'll talk you through the rude one as well. So we had a reputation for being working class. We were from Liverpool. Joe, my partner, was a farmer. Doug's parents were just normal, housing estate family. I'd been a single parent. And it was a personality that we really sort of worked hard to replicate. We championed the unfairness of privilege in the creative industries. We took down anyone who was offering unpaid internships and would essentially create Twitter pylons for anyone who was refusing to pay their interns. And we developed a reputation as being the champion of up-and-coming young talent who didn't have the means to come and work in London for free for the first couple of years of their career. But that wasn't actually true. Joe's dad was a farmer, but Joe's dad was also fucking minted. And 5 years before, 5 years into running the studio, Joe's mum and dad bought us a house. So all the time when we talk about, oh my God, it's so hard and we just pulled ourselves up from our bootstraps and ran this business the best way we could, I didn't have to pay a mortgage. So it's really easy to take risks, and it's really easy to tell other people to not go and fucking work for free when actually you don't have to pay your mortgage or you don't have to pay a rent. And I went online, and it's nice that I told everyone that Joe's dad had bought us a house, and I told it within the context of owning your privilege in the creative industries. And at the time, when you write something and it starts going mental online, there's always that point where you go, oh, fuck, I wish I hadn't done this. And there was a 2-hour period where the numbers just started clocking up and the comments just started clocking up. And Joe messaged me and said, why have you told everyone that my dad bought us a house? Because Joe tells everyone he's a farmer. But it worked out all right in the end because it helped sort of re-emphasise our honesty and our integrity and everything that we think was important about the agency. It just also had to own the fact that we were very, very spoiled. Now, because my boss is in the room, there's another version of this talk that I give. Does anyone remember the girl who went to Magaluf and she gave like 26 blowjobs as part of a bar game, and then they put her name on the front page of The Sun, right? It's horrendous. It's absolutely hideous. So that article came out, and I used our studio blog, which was a very, very popular blog at the time. We had lots and lots of readers, to list point by point every slaggy thing that I had ever done. So the time I gave a builder a blowjob, the time I slept with a Turkish waiter, and listed it and then tweeted it out to our many, many thousands of followers. Now, the silence after tweeting that and writing that blog was a lot more profound than the silence after telling everyone that Joe's dad had bought us a house, but it was still profound. Now, what happened in both of these instances is that my two partners didn't go, should we have a talk? Do you want to, run these things past us before you post them? They just let me crack on with it. And there's an awful, huge degree of confidence and support and love and all those lovely, woolly emotional feelings that you get when you realise that no matter what, someone's got your back. And it sort of snowballs into this feeling of, well, let's see what we can do to piss them off. And it creates a situation where you are much more willing to take a lot of risks, because in your mind you're thinking, what's the worst that can happen? I've done the worst and nothing's happened. No one's taken my business off me. I've not lost any clients. I've actually gained a few clients. Let's see what we can do next. There's a behavioural science company as well as a digital company. And one of the things that we talk to our clients about is the peak end rule. And I want to talk to you about the peak end rule in relationship to my desire to take risks, my sort of willingness to adopt in risky behaviour. So the peak end rule, if anyone's ever been in labour, it's the bit where you remember crowning, and then it's the bit where you remember being given the baby. You don't remember the 14 hours of just being booted in the stomach or crying or being sick on pethidine. You just remember the best bit or the worst bit, and then the end. So if you apply the peak end rule to the last 37 years of my life, this is the end, this is this moment now. And then the peak, the very, very worst thing that's ever happened to me is shoplifting a bag of nappies. So I got pregnant at 19, and an awful lot of people told me I'd made a terrible, terrible mistake and that you should get rid of him. And I didn't get rid of him because I literally didn't have anything better to do with my life at the time. And for a long time, I felt like a lot of those opinions of me had been validated. I was very, very, very sad, and I was incredibly poor, and there was water pouring in on my flat, and I just couldn't see a way out, and felt very much that all the potential that I'd been told I'd had going through, A-levels and sixth form and all that I'd squandered. And this sort of erupted into me walking through Liverpool, trying to work out where I should steal a bag of nappies from. Shall I steal a bag of nappies from Asda's? Because it'd be much easier to steal the nappies, but if I get caught, they prosecute 100% of the time. Or should I steal from the corner shop, where it would be much harder to steal because it was a much smaller environment, but maybe if I started crying, they'd let me off with it. And there's a rule in parenting that you should just keep your kids' arse clean. And if you can't keep your kids' arse clean, you have to go off and steal a bag of nappies, and it's pretty fucking depressing. But when you apply that to the peak end rule of my life, that's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and it didn't kill me. No one died in the end. It wasn't that bad. Actually, we all survived, and we came out of it stronger than before. My son's 16 now. He's amazing. And we're great, that's brilliant. But what that means is that you become a lot less averse to risk, let's say. You become willing to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And when you are outside of your comfort zone, you have to sort of create techniques and instances to mitigate the impact of being outside of your comfort zone. Now, anyone who's ever worked with me knows that I literally carry around a stack of leather-bound notebooks. They're like my security blanket. My notebooks aren't for me to record every stupid thing that a project manager asks me to do on a daily basis. It is to record all the instances where I don't know something. So I work sort of in the middle of an experience team, and I work in the middle of a data team, and I work in the middle of an SEO team and a big development team of 20. And I must come across 16, 17, 18 terms a day that I literally don't know what people are talking about. So I go off and I teach myself. And I'm in a permanent state of education. So these notebooks are just an opportunity for me to flick back and go, okay, what am I worried about? And when you're in a permanent state of education, you sort of realise how little you actually know. Because I don't think there's been a day yet where I've come into work and gone, I know everything that everyone's talking to me about. About today. I've constantly got a list of things that I've got to go off and research. And when you're presented with the knowledge of all the people that you work with, and then all the knowledge of the internet and all the people that they follow as well, you realise that you actually know nothing, and it's quite a humbling experience. And I can tell you how this all sort of links into confidence. Because as soon as you are willing to go off and accept that you don't know anything, you are more accepting of other people's opinions, you are more accepting of other people's knowledge. And you get into a situation where, on one side, you've got fake confidence going, I really know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm going to stand like this and try and sort of trick you into thinking that I know what I'm on about. Versus the people over here, like sort of, and I know this is ironic, seeing as I haven't shut up yet, but people who are more willing to shut up and to listen. And I think that's where true confidence comes from. And then what happens is, as soon as you start immersing yourself in education and long-term education, I would never call myself an expert on content strategy, but I am starting to evolve my learning and to try and feeding that back into the people who are teaching me. There's an archetypes project that I'm working on at the moment. In my head, there's only six types of content. They all need to be measured differently, and they all have different behavioural principles that help us optimise them better for our audiences. This is going to be a book, and I'm going to hopefully feed this back into the community who've been educating me for the last 12 years. And it's this idea of fake confidence that we use to mask what we don't know, versus real confidence where we sit there and go, I don't know this, I really need your help with it. And I think that is the difference between the two. And when I originally wrote this talk, I wrote it for a load of design students, and I forgot to take this slide out, so I'm going to talk to you about this slide now. And then how can we use these ideas of confidence and these ideas of sort of ignoring the nagging doubt in our head and sort of owning our confidence to become better at the work that we do. you all seem like pretty experienced people, and I think there's not a single person in here who hasn't been just like kicked into a pitch at last minute or kicked into a client meeting and gone, can you just stand in for me? Can you just this? And you've literally just got in there and gone, I have no idea what's happening here. And we try and sort of cover over it and go, yeah, so we're thinking about some residual strategies, and you just say fucking words. So I've got a technique now where I will never go into a pitch or a meeting unprepared. Now, if that means being a little bit of a thorn in people's side and refusing to go in and asking for a meeting to be postponed, or I'm asking for a meeting to be rescheduled, I will do that because I think that is more beneficial than having to stand in front of a lot of people and make myself look like an idiot. I also won't really go into a pitch or a talk where I don't know what I'm talking about. So I reference the fact that I've given this talk a couple of times now. The rule at Creativepool is that you're supposed to give a new talk every single time, but I don't want to do that because I've not practiced it and I've not rehearsed it. So we usually try and churn out the same things. Got like three talks on the go. Whenever we think about imposter syndrome, it's really that voice in the back of our head going, you're not good enough, you don't know what you're on about, you're an idiot, you need to stop talking now, people are looking at you. But what if that voice is actually a force for good, and what if that's actually helpful? What if that voice in the back of your mind is actually saying, you're not prepared enough for this, or this person's trying to throw you under a bus, be very, very wary. Or actually, maybe if you go away and you postpone this, you can come back and do some better work. So we spend an awful lot of time in the women in the industry talking about, let's silence it and let's be confident. But actually, why don't we try and talk about our sort of the voice in the back of our mind instead and use it as a force of good? And that's pretty much it. What was that, like 12 minutes? Yeah, I don't like giving long talks, and I think we should all go and have a cup of tea now. But basically, that's it. And does anybody want to ask me a question about anything or about any of these things? Or do you want me to just carry on talking? I can. I'll tell you about my children. Yeah, I'll tell you about the cold I've had. Anyone, come on, I'll start making up. Do you want me to tell you how much I've earned over the last 12 years? Yeah, everyone always, whenever I talk to students, they're like, fucking hell, yeah, tell me how much you earn. Right. So, my first job, I worked for the Chippendales in Lulu, and it was like a music promoter company. And I came straight out of university and actually had to walk out of my graduation meal to meet Boyzone and get them off the bus and chat and like book them into the hotel. And I earned £13,000 a year and had Fridays off. And then I went from that and I went to work in the music industry, and I did like produced album covers and produced video shoots. So when I worked on the Arctic Monkeys, I did 2 Arctic Monkeys campaigns. I was earning £50 a day. And when we did the Arctic Monkeys campaign, didn't actually get paid for the second one. So like there's like a picture of a house, and we cut the house in half, and we got like a graffiti crew. Never actually got paid for that because someone stole the cement mixer. So we had to recoup the cost of the cement mixer out of the budget cost, and no one got paid. That was shit. And then I went and I was head of marketing for a theatre company on £27,000 a year, and it was good, but it was terrible because it was in 2008, and what had happened was there was a banking crisis, and the banking crisis had a knock-on effect to the arts industry in that all of the like regularly funded organisations had their money taken off them immediately. So I went in like that year, like after the April budget. I think I went in the August, and no one had any budget. So I was trying to sell 15 shows with the budget for 3 shows. And that was a disaster. It was an unmitigated disaster. And I didn't realise how franking machines work. So this is like pre-digital. So I was just like fucking franking everything. I posted everything, and I overspent one of our show's budgets by £10,000 on stamps. So I had to leave there. That was terrible. And then I set up my design studio. And I set up my design studio, probably shouldn't say this, because at the time, if you were... What were the rules? Basically, I didn't qualify for any kind of working families tax credit. Oh, no, I did. I couldn't find a job that would let me sort of drop the kids off to school and then be home again, so I went freelance, and then I just pretended that I was working like over 16 hours a week so I could get my tax credits. And I did that for a long time, and we worked with Penguin Random House and Diesel, and we did a lot of music industry stuff. And it was absolutely brilliant. But around that time, when I looked through my old sort of my tax returns, I was probably earning about £12,000 a year, £12,000, £13,000, £14,000 a year for far longer than I should have been earning. So when we go, oh, it was great that my father-in-law bought me a house and all that, it was fucking lucky, because I think we'd have been absolutely scuppered. And then everything went terrible with the business, terrible. We took out a huge amount of loans because we thought we were going to be rich and we thought we were going to get all this work in. And none of the work came in. So we had to make everyone redundant. And then I had to go and ask my mum to buy the school uniform. So on top of like daddy buying us a house, I had to sit and ask mummy to buy school uniforms as well. Then I went freelance, which was great, but what I realised, and it was like I started charging about sort of $250, $350 a day then, realised I can't work out my tax. So it was like, I was like, oh, I'm making all this money, and then my tax bill had come and I had to take a loan out to pay my tax, so I was obviously doing that wrong as well. And now I'm at Dare, so I operate now as a content strategist, senior content strategist, which is pretty much a head of content. I run the team, I run the department, I run the strategy, and then whenever I go and do salary sort of comparisons, I come out at the top end of a content strategist. So we're talking like, I pay 40% tax, which feels like an insane amount of money compared to, earning £10.20 a day, sort of 2 years previously. And it's really weird because when we talk about what we're worth, I genuinely think I am worth that. And part of me is just like, no, fuck you, I want to pay 45% tax next. And what I've sort of realised is all the times when I wasn't being paid an awful lot, even when I was running my own business and I was supposed to care about that with my whole heart, I didn't really give a shit. I didn't really care enough about the business to really make it work, whereas now I'm working for someone else and I'm given healthy amount of money and I'm given an awful lot of autonomy and I'm given freedom to go off and do what I want. And I work myself practically to death. I haven't been ill like in 2 years and I'm in pieces now. But I'm just like, I want to go into the office. I want to work. I want to go to stupid 4-hour meetings with a bad cough because I really care about what I'm doing. And I think, if we sort of like loop it all right back around to this idea about confidence and imposter syndrome and actually sort of owning our worth in the industry, which is quite hard to do sometimes. It's a very sort of sensitive ecosystem where, we have to have like an inner feeling of like confidence in ourselves. We have to sort of feed on our experiences, but we also have to feed off the way that other people treat us as well. And being paid well, being given the freedom, being given the mouthpiece really to be heard within a big agency is so vitally important to how we succeed in our careers. And I think what I'm slowly starting to realise after all this time is that I'm not grateful or thankful for Dare for really looking after me. What I am is sort of giving them something back. And I think that's like a quite interesting ethos to have. It's like you are supporting me to support you. I'm rambling now, I'm slightly off my tits on Sudafed. So, how do you silence the silent nagging down your mouth? Don't listen to it. And just like fucking live by this. Live by the mantra of fuck you, I'm brilliant, because most people are fucking idiots. And we're not. Okay, you're not fucking idiots. And that's me, okay? I'm totally done now. I'm not going to tell you how much I am. Does anyone want to ask anything? Come on, ask a question. How long have we got? What time is it? All right, we're nearly done anyway. I think we've got...
You spoke about having people just have your back. How would you suggest you do that in a work environment? Like, how would you encourage that process?
Oh, that's so interesting. I think I read a really interesting article the other day about being a difficult person but doing it in a nice way. And I think there's... I'm never ever going to talk about female and masculine traits, but if we talk about soft skills and hard skills, there is a way of being difficult without rubbing people up the wrong way, and it is I think it's a fine art, and I think you learn it over time. And it's not about putting a smiley face, on a Slack message where you say, where the fuck are those reports? It's about balancing what you give with what you ask back. So my sort of rule is that I always give twice what I ask back. So when I come to someone and I say, I need you to help me sort of mock up a prototype and we're probably going to have to work late on doing it, I know it's because I've gone to that same person and said, I'm going to fix this for you, I'm going to help this for you. Which is taxing when you're in a position in your career where everything you do is timesheeted. And it is very hard to sort of have that level of generosity when you've got someone saying, oh, well, you've only got, sort of 3 hours left on this project. And I think maybe we need a little bit of a revolution about how we manage our time and how we value our time in the agency culture, because sat there going, oh, well, I can't help you because I've only got 2 hours left on the timesheet doesn't help anybody. And when we talk about going rogue, I do go rogue on our project managers sometimes, but it always feels like there is a point where I've totally sort of circumvented our design process at the moment and everyone's going a bit mental. But yeah, I think to sort of help, yeah, to get people to support you, you have to be supporting to them first. But also as well, and this is the sort of the difficult thing, you are always going to encounter wankers. There are always going to be really horrible, unhelpful, selfish people who only have their own self-interests at heart. I have not learned how to deal with those people throughout my entire career, and I don't know if it's be rude back, sit and take it, completely ignore them, cut them out of the environment. I think we just have to sort of find our allies in any organisation or wherever we are and just nurture them, bring them a cup of chicken, like a cup of tea, I don't know, but yeah. Yeah. Anyone else got another question? I'm going to start just handing you the microphone and forcing you to speak, or should we go? What do you want to do? We've got half an hour. 10 minutes, amazing. Does anyone want to talk? No, should I tell you about my children? Oh, no.
How do you? Oh, sorry.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
I don't like that. How do you kind of balance this level of confidence with just like not being a dick to people? Because I found that like I think I'm perfectly fine, and then like later someone will be like, "Oh, I really didn't like the way you said that," and I'm like, "But I was just honest." So, what's kind of your advice for that situation?
So I'll tell you a story about the way that we do things in work. Whenever anyone does anything good, we share it on our group email, and like everyone goes fucking mental with gifts. It's just like, gift. And there's like quite a lot of people in the organisation, so you can have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gifts, and it's like a lovely experience. I got chosen to talk at South by Southwest the other week. I only had 5 gifts, and I fully counted them, and I was just like, I'm going to remember that, I'm going to remember who you. So, I think sometimes being a confident, loud, difficult, nurturing person doesn't always do you a favour in your agency or in your organisation. I think sometimes it is better for people to keep their head down, but it's not better for you. You know, you're not going to be the person who stands out, the person who sort of, goes, I want to work on this project and I'm not going to wait for you to ask me, the person who says, I've got an opinion on this. Not a lot of people like that because, like, naturally, as a species, we do try and keep our heads under the parapet. So basically, you have to sort of take your love and support where you can get it and try and hear yourself speaking. If you do sound like a dick, and if lots of people are telling you sound like a dick, maybe you are being a dick. And I think there have been times when I have been totally guilty of that. But then there are also times when our head of tech, I adore him, but I am a thorn in his side at the moment because I want to just try new things all the time, and he's very, very busy, and he has a massive team. And it's like trying to communicate that it's only because I want this to be good and I care so much about it, and you have to balance that with a little bit of financial outlay. You've got to buy coffees, you've got to like buy quality streets, and it's like currency, isn't it? It's like emotional capitalism, that's what it is. Anyone else?
What do you think of personality types and testing and things like that within your workplace?
Has anyone done their Myers-Briggs? Yeah. I tell you, so when I went to so I was the head of marketing for a theatre. I'd come straight from the music industry where, like, literally everyone was on coke or beer all the time, and it was a very, very different way of doing things. And I went into the arts where everyone was lovely and they were very wholesome, and I was working with the British Council. And on my second day, I said something so fucking insensitive to my senior marketing director, whatever, that she resigned there and then on the spot. And it took me about a week to realise what I'd said, because it's just. But my personality type is, let's make a joke of this. Now, I was making a joke about her infertility, which, having then gone through infertility, I was like, fucking hell, that's so out of order. But that was me. I know, at the time, I was insensitive, and I have really, really worked on not being insensitive. versus people who no, I don't think sensitivity, I don't think introversion is a bad thing. I think it is a very different way of working. One of the things that we're trying to introduce in our place at the moment is user manuals for people. So just a list of questions. I like to receive feedback in this way. I like to process information in this way. I'm a collaborative scribbler. I know that there are people on my team who are a squirreler and they want to take work away and they want to think about it and they want to feedback in a quiet way. We have to start looking at all of those different types. But I don't think saying that I'm an ENFJ or I'm a JPW or whatever is actually the right way to go, because our behaviour shifts in context as well. My behaviour when I'm backed into a corner is very, very different to my behaviour when I've been given an awful lot of time to think and muse on things. And I think when we start thinking about the context of behaviour, then having that little user manual really comes into play. We haven't got as far as to implement it yet. I'm just sat there trying to like sort of encourage people to use it. But I think even having the foresight to know how we like to work and to understand that when we're in the situation when our requirements and our needs are being sort of contravened, then potentially that's a good place to start. Are we done? Fucking hell, we're done. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.